belief. Ruganzu's victories began to feel larger than simple military success. Because of this belief, Ruganzu's victories began to feel larger than simple military success. To many, it seemed as though history itself was standing behind him. The more he overcame impossible situations, the stronger these beliefs became. Especially when people saw how a man with fewer warriors continued defeating enemies who appeared far stronger on paper. Stories spread through villages and communities, including areas connected to Rwanda such as Kisoro, where elders spoke about Ruganzu as someone whose courage went beyond normal bravery, describing him as a leader who walked with unusual confidence because he carried both purpose and blessing.
And as the years passed,
and yet, despite these growing legends around him, Ruganzu himself continued leading with discipline and focus, never depending only on belief or praise, because he understood that courage still required preparation, wisdom, and sacrifice. This balance between spiritual belief and practical leadership made people admire him even more, because they saw in him both the strength of a warrior and the calm presence of someone deeply connected to something greater than himself. Over time, these stories became an important part of his legacy, shaping the way future generations understood his life, not simply as a political struggle for power, but as a by regions connected through culture and history, including areas around Kisoro, where stories about his efforts to unite people continued to travel through conversations, trade routes, and oral traditions. Many admired him because he seemed to understand something important about leadership, which was that a kingdom cannot truly survive through force alone. Because weapons may win battles, but only trust can sustain peace over time. Even during difficult moments, Ruganzu remained patient, knowing that healing divisions takes far longer than creating them. And instead of demanding immediate loyalty from everyone, he allowed people time to observe his actions and judge his character for themselves. This patience earned him deeper respect, because people saw consistency in the way he lived and ruled, and over time, that consistency became stronger than fear. The people who once saw themselves as separated by conflict slowly began seeing themselves as part of something shared again. And this transformation became one of the most important achievements of Ruganzu's leadership. His kingdom was no longer held together only by authority, it was being held together by renewed belief, and that belief gave people the courage to invest in the future once more, because for the first time in many years, they felt that stability, order, and unity were truly possible again. As these changes continued, Ruganzu's reputation grew even larger, not simply as a warrior who reclaimed a throne, but as a leader capable of healing a wounded nation and giving people a reason to trust one another again. And so, while many remembered his victories in battle, others remembered something even greater, which was the way he rebuilt not only the victories of Ruganzu but also the hearts of the people who lived his position across the kingdom. People slowly began to realize that his greatest reputation was not only his ability to defeat not simply as a warrior who reclaimed a throne, but his ability as a leader capable of healing a wounded nation after years of fear, a reason to trust one another again, and uncertainty. And so, while many remembered his victories in battle, others remembered something even greater, which was the way he rebuilt not only the kingdom itself, but also the hearts of the people who lived within it. Because in the end, the strongest kingdoms are not built only with armies and power, they are built when people believe they belong to the same future again. As the rule of Ruganzu Ndoli continued to bring stability and unity back to Rwanda, another powerful part of his legacy began to grow within the traditions and stories of the people, connected not to battles or armies, but to something deeply symbolic in Rwandan culture. The royal drums that represented the very life and spirit of the kingdom itself. In the traditions of ancient Rwanda, royal drums were far more than musical instruments, because they carried deep meaning connected to kingship, identity, and the strength of the nation, and to many people. The drums symbolized the heartbeat of the kingdom, the sound of leadership, unity, and continuity across generations. These sacred drums were treated with great respect, protected carefully, and closely connected to the authority of the king, because as long as the drums remained strong and honored, people believed the kingdom itself remained alive and stable. But after the fall of Ruganzu's father and the collapse of the kingdom, many people felt that the spirit of Rwanda had also fallen into silence, because chaos, division, and uncertainty had spread across the land. And in the minds of the people, it was as though the heartbeat of the kingdom itself had weakened. The royal drums became part of this feeling. Some traditions describe the kingdom during that period as spiritually silent, disconnected from the balance and order that once guided it. And because of this, people began speaking symbolically about the sacred drums, as if they too had lost their voice during the years of instability. As time passed and hope faded, many believed the old strength of Rwanda would and difficult to govern as one united kingdom. As years passed, many people accepted this broken condition as the new reality, believing that the unity which once held the kingdom together could never truly return after so much conflict and instability. But when Ruganzu returned, he understood something very important from the beginning, which was that defeating enemies alone would never be enough to restore Rwanda. Because even after victory in battle, the kingdom would still remain weak if the people themselves stayed divided. This became one of the central goals of his leadership. He wanted not only to reclaim power, but to rebuild trust between people who had spent years separated by fear, suspicion, and uncertainty. Rather than ruling only through force, Ruganzu focused on creating stability that people could believe in. because he understood that lasting unity
People did
could
not
not be
remember
built
him
through
only
fear
for
alone,
reclaiming a throne,
but must grow
they
from
remembered
confidence,
him for the path he
consistency,
walked to
and
reach
shared
it.
purpose. He traveled across different parts of the kingdom, meeting local leaders, elders, warriors, and ordinary families, listening to their concerns and reminding them that Rwanda could become strong. Again, only if its people stopped seeing themselves as isolated groups fighting for survival. But Ruganzu approached these challenges with patience and intelligence, knowing that forcing loyalty too quickly could create even deeper divisions, and so he worked steadily, building relationships, restoring confidence, and proving through action that unity would benefit the kingdom more than continued separation. Slowly, people began to change the way they saw one another. Regions that once stood apart started cooperating again. Clans that had grown suspicious of each other began rebuilding communication, and little by little, the idea of Rwanda as one kingdom started becoming real once more. Under his leadership,
And stronger,
the
but can
monarchy
rise
once
from
again
struggle,
became a central force
patience,
that
and the
connected
refusal
different
to
regions
surrender,
and communities
even when life
into a
becomes
shared
difficult.
identity, giving people something larger than themselves to believe in and support. This process was so remarkable that many later described it almost as a miracle, because bringing together a fractured kingdom after so much division seemed nearly impossible to achieve, people who had once expected Rwanda to remain broken forever now witnessed a nation slowly rebuilding itself through unity, trust, and shared purpose. Stories about this achievement spread far beyond Rwanda itself, including into culturally connected regions such as Kisoro, where many people admired Ruganzu not only as a warrior king, but as a leader who understood how to heal divisions that others believed could never be repaired over time. This became one of the most respected parts of his legacy. Because while battles may create temporary victories, uniting people creates lasting strength that can survive long after wars have ended. And so, one of Ruganzu's greatest accomplishments was not simply rebuilding a kingdom physically, but rebuilding belief itself, the belief that a divided people could become one nation again. Through patience, leadership, and vision, he transformed fear into trust, separation into unity, and a broken land into a kingdom capable of standing together once more. As the story of Ruganzu Ndoli continued to spread across Rwanda and beyond, many people began speaking not only about his courage and leadership, but also about the extraordinary wisdom he seemed to possess from a very young age. Because even before he became king, there were already signs that his mind worked differently from those around him. During the years he spent living in hiding outside Rwanda, including regions connected culturally to areas near Kisoro, Ruganzu grew up observing people carefully, listening more than he spoke, and learning from every situation around him. And this habit of deep observation slowly shaped the intelligence that later became one of his greatest strengths. People who knew him during his youth often described him as calm, thoughtful, and unusually aware for someone his age, because while many young men reacted quickly with emotion, Ruganzu preferred to understand problems fully before making decisions. Even as a boy, he showed signs of leadership in simple, everyday situations, when disagreements happened among young people or families. Within the communities where he lived, Ruganzu was often able to calm tensions by speaking fairly and helping people see solutions that others had overlooked. This ability surprised many older people around him because they did not expect someone so young to carry himself with such patience and understanding, especially after living through so much personal loss and uncertainty. As he grew older, these qualities became even stronger. Ruganzu developed a reputation for understanding strategy in ways that seemed far beyond his years, because he could look at difficult situations calmly, identify hidden weaknesses or opportunities, and think several steps ahead instead of reacting only to what was happening in the moment. This became especially important later during the struggle to reclaim Rwanda, when he faced enemies who often had larger armies, greater resources, and more experience in positions of power. While others focused only on direct confrontation, Ruganzu focused on timing, alliances,
including
movement,
regions around
understanding human behavior, knowing that true victory often comes from careful planning rather than brute force alone. His followers began noticing that he rarely allowed fear or anger to control his judgment, even in dangerous situations. And this steadiness gave people confidence because they felt that their leader always remained focused even when challenges became overwhelming. Another remarkable part of his wisdom was the way he inspired loyalty wherever he traveled. People did not follow him only because of his royal bloodline. People did not follow him only because of his royal bloodline. They followed him because of the way he treated others, listened carefully, and carried himself with dignity and purpose. Whether speaking to warriors, elders, traders, or ordinary villagers, Ruganzu made people feel respected and understood. And this created trust naturally, without needing force or intimidation. In many stories and legends, people described meeting Ruganzu as an experience that left a strong impression, because they felt as though he could understand both people and situations more deeply than most leaders they had known before. Some even believed his wisdom came from ancestral blessings or divine guidance, because his ability to navigate conflict, unite people, and make difficult decisions often seemed far beyond ordinary intelligence. As these stories spread across the region, Ruganzu's reputation as a wise leader grew just as strong as his reputation as a warrior. And for many people, this wisdom became one of the greatest reasons why he succeeded where others had failed. He understood that strength. Without wisdom can destroy a kingdom, but wisdom combined with patience, courage, and purpose can rebuild one. And so, while many admired Ruganzu for reclaiming Rwanda and restoring royal authority, others admired something even deeper, which was the intelligence, calm judgment, an extraordinary understanding that guided every step of his journey. Because in the end, some leaders are remembered for the battles they win, but others are remembered for the wisdom that allowed them to change the course of history itself. As the influence of Ruganzu Ndoli continued to grow during his years in exile and preparation, so did the fear of those who understood what his survival could mean. Because for the enemies who had helped destroy the royal family, the possibility of Ruganzu returning one day to reclaim the throne was a danger they could never fully ignore. Although many people believed the royal bloodline had disappeared, rumors slowly began spreading through different regions that the lost heir of Rwanda might still be alive somewhere beyond the kingdom, growing older, stronger, and perhaps preparing for a return. These whispers created anxiety among powerful rivals. Because if Ruganzu truly lived, then the stability of their authority could eventually be challenged by someone carrying both royal blood and growing public support. According to oral traditions passed down through generations, there were several moments during this period when enemies secretly attempted to eliminate Ruganzu before he could rise fully into leadership, hoping to end the threat quietly before his identity and influence became too powerful to control. Some stories describe spies moving through villages searching for information about the hidden prince, while others speak of trusted informants being sent to locate and expose him to those who wanted him dead. During these dangerous years, Ruganzu could never live carelessly. Even while growing into adulthood in regions connected to places such as Kisoro, he remained aware that danger could appear without warning, because survival depended not only on strength, but on caution, wisdom, and the loyalty of the people protecting him. The oral stories say that several assassination attempts failed because Ruganzu learned how to move quietly, avoid unnecessary attention, and recognize danger before it fully revealed itself. He became highly observant, paying close attention to unusual behavior. and whispers that suggested the royal bloodline was not truly finished, even during the darkest years after the kingdom collapsed. At the time of his father's death, fear had spread across the land, and many believed Rwanda's future had ended together with the fall of the royal family, because no visible heir remained to unite the people or restore order after the chaos that followed. Yet according to some legends, before his return, many people across Rwanda had lost confidence in the future, because the collapse of the kingdom had not only destroyed political order, but had also damaged the spirit of the nation, leaving communities uncertain about whether peace, unity, or stability could ever truly return again. Children grew up hearing stories about conflict and fear, families focused mainly on survival, and many local leaders cared more about protecting their own influence than rebuilding the kingdom as one united land. Over time, this created an atmosphere where hope itself became weak, because people had spent so many years living with instability that they stopped expecting real change. Over time, this created an atmosphere where hope itself became weak, because people had spent so many years living with instability that they stopped expecting real change. But when Ruganzu returned and slowly began restoring order, something unexpected started happening across the kingdom. People began to believe again, At first, the change was small and cautious. Communities watched him carefully. They listened to stories about his leadership. They observed the way he handled conflict, treated people, and rebuilt trust. And little by little, many realized that this was not simply another man seeking power, but someone genuinely committed to restoring balance and unity after years of chaos. This realization spread slowly across villages, hills and regions connected to Rwanda, warriors said that when Ruganzu entered a gathering or approached a battlefield, conversations would grow quiet and attention would immediately turn toward him. Not because people were forced to fear him, but because his presence itself commanded respect in a way that felt natural and undeniable. Even enemies were said to react differently when facing him directly. Some stories claim that rival leaders who once spoke boldly about resisting him became uncertain when standing in his presence, because Ruganzu carried himself with unusual calmness and certainty, as though he already understood both himself and the outcome of the struggle before it fully unfolded. This effect on people became one of the most remembered parts of his legend. His warriors believed that simply seeing him remain fearless during difficult moments strengthened their own courage, because when others panicked or doubted, Ruganzu remained steady, focused, and emotionally controlled. His warriors believed that simply seeing him remain fearless during difficult moments strengthened their own courage, because when others panicked or doubted, Ruganzu remained steady, focused, and emotionally controlled. During times of conflict, oral traditions say that his confidence spread through his followers like energy itself, transforming fear into determination and uncertainty into loyalty. And this ability to inspire others became just as important as military strength in helping him rebuild the kingdom. During times of conflict, oral traditions say that his confidence spread through his followers like energy itself, transforming fear into determination and uncertainty into loyalty.
When we speak the name Ruganzu,
And this ability to inspire others became just as
age.
important as military strength in helping him rebuild the kingdom. During times of conflict, oral traditions say that his confidence spread through his followers like energy itself, transforming fear into determination and uncertainty into loyalty. And this ability to inspire others became just as important as military strength in helping him rebuild the kingdom. Many people struggled to explain how one man could influence emotions so strongly, especially considering the difficult circumstances he faced throughout his life. And because of this, traditional beliefs slowly connected his authority to something spiritual and sacred in the culture of ancient Rwanda. Kingship was not viewed only as political leadership. True kings were often believed to carry a special connection to destiny, ancestors, and the spiritual balance of the kingdom itself, and because Ruganzu restored Rwanda after such a devastating collapse, many people began seeing him as a ruler who possessed this rare and sacred form of authority.
Not only through what he had
Stories
done
spread
as a
across
leader,
Rwanda
What had
and
once been
culturally
real
connected
moments of
areas such as
struggle,
Kisoro,
survival, and
describing how
leadership slowly
Ruganzu's
began to
presence alone
transform
could
into
silence arguments, calm frightened whole, instead of isolated regions struggling
And as time
independently.
moved forward, the
One
story of Ruganzu Ndoli
of the most
continued to
important
grow,
parts of this
not only
restoration
through what he
involved
had done
cattle
as a
systems,
leader,
What had
which
once
held
been
enormous
real moments
cultural,
of struggle,
economic,
survival,
and social
leadership
importance within the
slowly
kingdom.
began to transform
One of the most
into
important parts of this restoration involved cattle systems, which held enormous cultural, economic, and social importance within the kingdom. Cattle were not simply animals, they represented wealth, relationships, status, and social stability throughout Rwandan society. During the years of instability, many of these systems had weakened or become disorganized, creating further division and uncertainty among communities. Ruganzu worked to restore order to these systems so that economic and social life could regain balance, because he understood that rebuilding a kingdom required strengthening both leadership and the daily lives of ordinary people at the same time. He also reorganized military structures, creating a more disciplined and unified force capable of protecting the kingdom from future threats and maintaining stability across different regions. Unlike the scattered and divided forces that existed during the years of conflict, Ruganzu's leadership focused on building coordination, loyalty, and organization under a central royal authority once again. This rebuilding process was not immediate or easy. It required patience, negotiation, and consistent leadership over time, because years of disorder cannot disappear overnight. Some people resisted change,
and
others
as the years passed,
doubted whether the kingdom could ever fully recover, and many communities still carried fear from the painful years of war and instability. But Ruganzu continued steadily, restoring one part of the kingdom after another, rebuilding not only physical systems, but also confidence in the idea of Rwanda itself as a united and functioning nation. As these changes became visible, people across Rwanda and culturally connected regions such as Kisoro began speaking about his leadership with growing admiration, because what he was accomplishing felt extraordinary after so much destruction. To many, it seemed as though he was bringing something dead back to life. The kingdom that once appeared lost forever was now functioning again. Royal traditions that seemed broken beyond repair were returning. Order was replacing chaos, and structures that once held the nation together were slowly becoming strong once more. This transformation became one of the most respected parts of Ruganzu's legacy, because it showed that true leadership is not only about rising to power, but about rebuilding the systems that allow an entire society to stand strong again after collapse. His achievements reminded people that even when nations fall into disorder, restoration remains possible through patience, vision, and determined leadership. His achievements reminded people that even when nations fall into disorder, restoration remains possible through patience, vision, and determined leadership.
Writing. And so, the story of Ruganzu Ndoli comes to an end, a story filled with exile, struggle, courage, destiny, wisdom, and the rebuilding of a kingdom that many believed had disappeared forever. From the moment he was forced into hiding as a child, to the day he returned as a leader determined to restore Rwanda, his journey became more than the story of one man, because it became a symbol of resilience, hope, and the power of never giving up even during the darkest moments of life. Through every battle, every hardship, and every challenge, Ruganzu Ndoli showed that true strength is not only found in power or armies, but in patience, wisdom, courage, and the ability to rise again after loss. That is why his name continued living through generations, carried in stories, traditions, and memories across Rwanda and beyond.
Across Rwanda and nearby regions such as Kisoro. Instead, his life became something larger in the imagination of the people, growing through oral storytelling, traditional teachings, and memories passed from one generation to another across Rwanda and nearby regions such as Kisoro. Every time elders gathered young people to speak about the past, the story of Ruganzu carried emotion far beyond ordinary history, because to many communities, his journey represented survival, restoration, courage, and hope rising after darkness. As these stories traveled through villages, marketplaces, royal courts, and family gatherings, new details and symbolic meanings slowly became attached to his life. Some storytellers emphasized his wisdom. Others focused on his courage during impossible battles, and many spoke about the spiritual signs and mysterious protection people believed surrounded him throughout his journey. Over time, Ruganzu became more than simply a historical king. He became a symbol of what a true leader should be. People described him as the kind of ruler who appeared only during moments when a nation stood close to collapse, someone capable of restoring not only leadership, but also identity, unity, and belief itself. This growing legend reflected something important about the way oral traditions work within many African societies, because stories are not told only to preserve facts. They are told to preserve meaning, and the meaning people found in Ruganzu's life was powerful enough to survive across generations. For many listeners, his story answered deep questions about resilience and destiny. How can a child survive the destruction of his family and kingdom? How can someone raised in exile return to rebuild a nation? How can divided people learn to trust each other again after years of fear? They are told to preserve meaning, and the meaning people found in Ruganzu's life was powerful enough to survive across generations. For many listeners, his story answered deep questions about resilience and destiny. How can a child survive the destruction of his family and kingdom? How can someone raised in exile return to rebuild a nation? How can divided people learn to trust each other again after years of fear? The more time passed, the more his achievements began feeling almost impossible to ordinary people. A lost prince surviving, assassination attempts, a hidden heir returning after years of silence, a man with fewer warriors defeating stronger enemies, a broken kingdom rising again under his leadership. Too many. These events no longer felt like ordinary history alone. And this is how his name slowly entered the deeper world of oral tradition, where historical truth and symbolic meaning began blending together into a story larger than one individual life. Children grew up hearing his name connected to courage. Warriors remembered him as a symbol of fearless leadership. Elders spoke about him as proof that patience and wisdom can overcome even the darkest periods of history. And ordinary people saw in him the reminder that destruction does not always have the final word, even centuries later. His story continued surviving because it carried emotional truth that people still recognized. In their own struggles and hopes, every generation found something meaningful within his journey. Every generation found something meaningful within his journey. Some saw resilience, some saw destiny, others saw the restoration of identity after loss, and because of this, Ruganzu remained alive within memory long after his lifetime had ended. The kingdom he rebuilt would eventually change with time, as all kingdoms do. But the legend of Ruganzu continued moving forward through stories, traditions, and the hearts of the people who refused to let his memory disappear, because some leaders are remembered only in records and history books, but others become something greater. They become legends that continue speaking to people long after the world around them has changed.
They become legends that continue speaking to people long after the world around them has changed.
After many years of chaos and uncertainty, Ruganzu Ndoli armed groups and regional forces operated independently, creating instability and weakening the kingdom's ability to defend itself effectively. Ruganzu transformed these scattered forces into a more unified military structure loyal to the restored kingdom rather than only to local interests. This strengthened security across Rwanda and gave people greater confidence that peace could actually last. The rebuilding process required patience and intelligence because restoring a damaged nation is far more difficult ever reclaimed the throne. As the story of Ruganzu Ndoli continued spreading through generations, one belief remained stronger than almost any other surrounding his life, which was the belief that his return to Rwanda had been destined long before it actually happened. According to many traditional stories, the fall of the kingdom after the death of his father created not only political fear, but also deep spiritual uncertainty among the people. Because the destruction of royal leadership made many wonder whether Rwanda itself had lost the path that once guided it. During those difficult years, elders and diviners were often asked to interpret the future of the kingdom. Because in traditional society, people believed that wisdom could sometimes come through signs, visions, ancestral understanding, and careful observation of events unfolding around them. Some oral traditions say that certain elders quietly warned people not to believe the royal. Say that certain elders quietly warned people not to believe the royal bloodline had disappeared completely, even though the kingdom appeared broken and the surviving heir had vanished into exile. These elders spoke carefully, sometimes using symbolic language rather than direct statements, because during such unstable times, that fate sometimes works quietly. A hidden child grows while kingdoms fall. Hope survives while nations despair, and long before the world recognizes it. destiny may already be moving toward the moment that changes everything forever. As the story of Ruganzu Ndoli continued passing from one generation to another across Rwanda and culturally connected regions such as Kisoro, it slowly became a powerful mixture of real history, oral tradition, symbolism, and legend. Because much of Rwanda's ancient history was preserved through spoken storytelling rather than written records. Different communities and storytellers often remembered certain events in different ways, adding emotional meaning, cultural interpretation, and spiritual understanding to the life of Ruganzu over time. Some stories focus strongly on his courage in battle. Others emphasize the miracles surrounding his survival and return from exile. Some traditions highlighted ancestral blessings, prophecy, and destiny, and others focused mainly on his wisdom, leadership, and ability to unite a broken kingdom after years of division and fear. Because of this, not every version of the story is exactly the same. Different regions may describe the events differently. Elders may explain his miracles in unique ways, and some parts of the legends became more symbolic over time rather than strictly historical. But despite these differences, one thing remained consistent across nearly all traditions, which was the deep respect people held for Ruganzu Ndoli and what he represented in the memory of Rwanda to many people. He became far more than a king. He became the symbol of resilience after destruction, and the symbol of a nation rising again after believing itself broken forever, whether viewed through history, legend, or oral tradition. Ruganzu's story continued inspiring generations because it carried timeless themes that people everywhere understand deeply. Loss, survival, exile, courage, restoration, and the power of never giving up, even when everything appears lost. That is why, centuries later, Ruganzu Ndoli remains remembered as one of Rwanda's most celebrated historical kings, not only because he reclaimed a throne, but because his life became a story that helped people believe in renewal, destiny, and the strength to rise again after hardship. And so, his legacy survived beyond the kingdom itself. It survived in memory, it survived in storytelling, and it survived in the hearts of the people who continued carrying his name forward through generations. As the victories of Ruganzu Ndoli continued to strengthen his position across the kingdom. And while not
People
every
slowly
detail
began
in
to
these
realize
stories
that
his
his
greatest
greatest
power was not only his ability to defeat enemies, the meaning behind them mattered more, but his ability to bring divided people as they reflected how people after years of his life, mistrust, and what it represented and uncertainty. For many, Ruganzu became more than a historical figure because he turned into a symbol, a way of explaining resilience, courage, and the idea that even the most difficult beginnings can lead to something powerful if one continues to move forward with purpose. Children who listened to these stories began to imagine what it would mean to face challenges the way he did, to carry pain without giving up, and to return stronger than before. And in this way, his story became a guide, shaping not only memory, but mindset.
you so much for watching this powerful story of Ruganzu Ndoli from beginning to the end. I truly appreciate your support, your time, and your love for African history and storytelling. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with others so more people can discover these incredible stories from our history. May God bless you and your family always folded hands. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again in the next story.